Well, this was the project. Changing out this valve in the toilet. And I wasn't looking forward to doing this job. What was wrong is this valve would get stuck at the top and wouldn't come down. I had to bump it. Had to bump to make it come down. So I had to face the problem and change it out. Unfortunately, what could I buy that was better? Nothing. These are all pieces of junk from Home Depot and Lowe's. It's all the same thing. It's not made very well. So I find out you're going to have to change it quite a bit. Anyways, the problem was I had no problem undoing this and taking it off, but I had a copper line that was 50 years old attached to the valve on the bottom where the water comes in through the wall. And I said, you know what? I've got to attack this problem and get the nut off of that valve. Well, I didn't particularly want to do that because that nut has been on there for 50 years. I've changed things in this toilet without removing that bottom nut. I said, this time I got to do it. So I bought a flexible hose, and I got the parts ready, and I'll show you what I did to get that nut that's been on there for 50 years has never come off. This is the solid line, steel line. This goes up to that valve at the bottom of the toilet, and there's a nut here, right here, which I've got my vice grips on, that attaches to the valve that goes through the wall. Well, I put a wrench on this nut here, and I pulled on it, not hard, but I pulled on, but enough to know that this nut is not coming off. So what I did, and I applied what I've done with cars. When I had a hobby of working on cars, I had to take the bolts off of the heads, the engine heads. And also, that's pretty hard to get those, especially in a car that's maybe 10, 15 years old, which is what I was working on. And also, I applied the same principles for taking the bolts off, or the nuts, from the manifold. Now these two places, the heads and the manifold, are probably the worst situations for getting bolts and nuts off a car because of the constant heating and cooling down, which really seizes the nut. But this is, I applied that to this little thing here. Okay, and what it is, I've seen videos on YouTube of how to do this. Of course, they use torches and all kinds of ways to get it off, and oil. But you put this clamp on, or the wrench that fits good. You take a screwdriver or a hammer, depending on the size of the bolt, and you tap it. Tap it. Just keep tapping it. Hit it like that. Hit it. And then you'll see, after a while, it starts to turn. Ah, you've just broken that nut or that bolt loose. Then you can tap it some more, because don't force it anymore. And just keep going around until it's nice and loose. Then you can take it off with your hands. But if you try to take that nut or that bolt off with brute force, one, you're going to strip the hex on the nut or the bolt, or you're going to completely twist the bolt off. So this is it. Just get it on there, put a wrench, and tap it with pliers or a hammer, like that. Keep going around. Well, this one came off beautiful, and I put the new flexible hose on. So try it.